Hello and welcome to the latest in our Insurtech Insights series of webinars. We've got a fantastic panel discussing a really interesting and really present topic at the moment. So we're talking about the trends driving automated claims. So more efficient automated claims, really hot at the moment, something which a lot of insurers, both Insurtechs and incumbents alike, are thinking about a lot. So I'll go over a few ground rules for audience members. So if you're looking to participate, we have two ways of doing this. So there's a chat box where you can post comments. So obviously we really like to hear where people are tuning in from. I would caution everyone, obviously, that this is all public. But we'd love to hear where you're tuning in from and anything else. We also have a Q&A section towards the end after our main topic discussions. So if you'd like to post any Q&A questions, I'll come to the ones we think are most interesting and the ones that get most upvotes towards the end. So I won't give you too much further delay. I'll just go through the agenda. So I'll introduce the topic and the panelists in a second. Then we'll move to three key topic areas, then the Q&A section, and finally we will move to key takeaways, where our panelists will go through the key conclusions and the central points that we've discussed during the discussion. So without any further ado, here are our three panelists today. So, I think on the whole, you can introduce yourselves far more eloquently than I can. So I'll hand over to you guys. Luiza, would you like to introduce yourself?
Definitely. Thank you, Matt, for having me today. My name is Luiza. I'm currently based in Sydney. I'm a VP customer at Cover Genius. I lead AutoClaims and customer care operations globally. So this means from the design, conceptualization, the trends, experiences of our customers when coming through the claims, working closely with technology, identifying the important trends and capabilities that we need to develop to create great experience for customers. I've been working at Cover Genius for over 5 years, so it's been a really nice journey so far. So during this period, the company has grew over 700%. We've been nominated the fastest growing company in APAC by Financial Times, I think last year. And I've been lucky enough to be around this ride for so long and just working together with a company just to grow and deliver great experiences to our global customers.
Awesome. Cheers, Luiza. Ernie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, yeah. My name is Ernie Bray. I'm the CEO of AutoClaims Direct. We've been in business for over 18 years. Our goal at the company is we work with the auto insurance market in the United States to really focus on, we're a customer, claims and service company, technology company. And our goal is to focus on the material damage process and find ways to really streamline that and basically help carriers connect vendors to assignments and really focus on making the auto claims process smooth for customers and the adjusters.
Cool. Thanks so much. We're looking forward to having you on board. And finally, Jeff, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Jeff Ryan. I have the privilege of leading a really smart group of people at Allstate, and we're focused on changing our current claim structure and operation from what it is today to something that's much more digitally native. So really focusing in on that customer experience from a digital standpoint, and then working on automating the outcomes within the claims process.
Awesome. Cheers. And we have a fantastic panel today. This is by far our weirdest panel in terms of time zones. So we have Jeff and Ernie in the morning, and we have Luiza heroically joining us at 11 p.m. in Sydney. So obviously, thank you guys so much for accommodating this. And there are going to be some fantastic insights, I'm completely sure. So I think, let's move on to the first topic area. So this is a point that we always find quite interesting at Insurtech Insights when it comes to automation. This question of how do you create a unique tone of voice with your brand if everything is automated? So it becomes this real question about how we balance the human and the digital. Luiza, what's your initial take on this question?
Awesome. I think this is a really interesting question, and I should probably get started by explaining what Cover Genius is. So our mission is to enable the largest digital companies in the world to distribute and embed insurance to the global customers. If we think about the tone of voice and the original question, I think that for us at Cover Genius, more important than creating a unique tone of voice is creating tailored and seamless experiences for our customers, right? So when we think about our partners, we have a really interesting list of partners. So we're partnering with companies like Skyscanner, Descartes, ShipRush, Intuit, Booking Holdings, Wayfair, eBay, so forth, so on the list goes by. And I think that I can give you two really interesting examples of how we think about the tone of voice and how we design our services. So if you get a customer that goes to Skyscanner, is looking for a flight and has an option to add a policy to get the whole trip covered with our main brand with a product which is called Xcover. This experience in this customer that initially shopped the whole policy on a partner website, they're going to come to Xcover to initiate the claims, to start the service, to get the help they need. This experience is very different from potentially another type of customer that we might have. There's a small business that's shipping parcels and sending the items through Descartes ShipRush, which is one of another interesting different vertical. When we put those two experiences together in those two types of profiles, for us, more important than creating a unique tone of voice, it's all about creating tailored experiences that are similar. So when you're dealing with a brand into another and navigating, it's everything natural for our customers. And I think that also really more important probably than the tone of voice is actually how quickly things are being handled. So we've seen that at Cover Genius, we have a really, we're really proud of our NPS score. So we have an industry leading NPS of 65 plus. So what we've seen as well is more important sometimes in the tone of voice, it's how quickly and how quickly customers are served on demand. So we have 95% of our claims that settle within 3 days, and this is by far the biggest driver for great experiences and for great claims experiences for our customers.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point about how people shouldn't confuse digitalized experiences with personalized experiences. And if anything, at this point, these digital platforms need to be even more personalized than it would be to just have a phone conversation. And I guess this is a point I guess I'll direct at Jeff, because this is something that you'll have seen watching a firm transition from an established firm to one which is increasingly integrating modern automation techniques. How have you found the experience of getting customers to transition to a point where they trust these digital platforms for claims automation more than they would just want to pick up the phone?
Yeah, I think one of the strategies is it doesn't start just in claims. So you have to have a concerted enterprise strategy and get people more geared and more establish that digital trust with your customer prior to claims ever happening. So you have to have enterprise standards. You have to have this one look and feel from your buy through your policy service through your claims. The other thing is you've got to take out the insurance jargon. If you ever get a group of insurance professionals together from different companies, we'll be talking about the same exact topics, but we'll be using totally different words and confusing each other. So like if I sit, and I've gone from different, I've worked technically for 2 carriers, but within 4 brands. And you kind of need a Rosetta Stone between the brands and between the carriers to figure out what people are talking about. Our customers have no chance. So you have to take that jargon out for the customers. You have to put things into plain English for them so that they can understand that. So you really need to have a robust UX research team along with a robust UX design team to be able to handle that. The third thing is that you can't just think about your what you want to give to the customer. You have to think about the customer's ability to give you their authentic voice within the digital. So claims have nuance, claims are unique, and each person thinks their claim is very special. You may think that you've seen this a million times, so we build out these tap paths, and we think that that's going to suffice because it's giving us the information that we need. But the customer might have things that they want to tell us. So one of the things that we're doing is we're bringing that voice within the digital channel, using NLP to be able to extract information out of it and to be able to use that later down in the claims process. But it also gives the customer the knowledge that they've been heard, and that they didn't just give us what we want, but they've given us what they want as well.
Yeah, I mean, to pick you up on that final point there about the customer being heard, that feels like such an important point because we all have those experiences of bad customer service and experiencing that across so many industries, and it can often feel very much like that computer says no experience if got wrong. I mean, obviously, I'll turn this to Ernie. So obviously, in AutoClaims in particular, you're dealing with people at quite an emotive point. They could be stuck in the middle of a road somewhere. They could have one of the most valuable items in their life destroyed. How have you found that experience of trying to project confidence in the tone of voice when dealing with customers?
Yeah, for us, we're right on the front lines. We're dealing with the customers at that time when that policy is called into force. You have to go out and inspect a vehicle or handle a call by phone. And I look at it, this question is, what's the unique tone of voice for the brand? Well, the brand you have to embody that. So if you're a company that's focused on really giving that personalized customer service and that touch on the front line, you got to embody that, even though you're bringing automation into the mix here. Now, you can really move toward a lot more straight through processing, a lot of automation, but the brand really has to still have that service component. Like we are basically service and technology. And one of the ways I think we do it from our perspective is we really highlight, showcase the people behind it. So even if a customer may take the route of going to the automated route, at least they know there's somebody behind it. There's an actual personal touch, whether it's the interior staff that we have that are dealing with adjusters, or it's the field appraisers, vendors, whoever they are. We really like to showcase that human touch because they know they can get there. And I think it's important really for the brand to realize that you got to be able to say, hey, if I'm customer focused, then you have to be able to deliver, because not all claims are automated. And really the question should be also too is, should everything be automated? You need to automate where it makes sense and give that empathy and that customer approach when that is needed. So it's really that balance. I'm sure we'll probably hit on that more as we talk, but for us, it's really about showcasing the people behind it so they know that you can live up to what you're promising during that whole part of the claim.
Yeah, it is such an interesting question. And I guess it's actually something else we may as well discuss now. Like, where do you, Ernie, think that line should be drawn? Like, what do you think ultimately can be digitized, and where do you think more of those individual decisions can still be maintained?
Well, the claims process, for a customer, it may seem very simple. They report a claim and they want their car fixed and repaired so they can get back on the road. Like you said before, it's a very stressful time. Anytime somebody has a claim, it's stressful. But the issue behind the scene is, when do you make that decision to go to automation or allow that customer to exit from that and get that human, person on the phone? And that's where I think a lot of it goes behind the scenes, where you're saying, looking at the entire claims process, building in the automation tools so you can route the claims to the right decision, because a lot of claims may not need the human touch. And it really begins at the front end. It can even get back the first notice of loss, way beyond where it gets out to the field assignments or a desk estimate. It happens earlier on. But if you can use the automation to really remove touch points and a lot of the actual work that's done by adjusters, that's maybe administrative tasks that can be eliminated, but make that adjuster more efficient. It's that balance. Where do you go along that, the chain of the claim and get it to the right hands, and giving that customer the ability to exit an automated solution and get to a human when they want that. So you got to build it so it's the customer can find out what they need at that moment.
I think that's such a great approach to it. This idea that actually, rather than pitting against these two components, this digital component and this human component of the service, they can actually supplement each other. And that's something we'll return to in just a bit, actually. But I think firstly, what we'll do before moving on to the next section is we'll run a poll for the audience. So I'm going to start the poll now. And this is something that we're always eager to get a gauge with these subjects on what our audience is thinking. Obviously, you're all very much involved in this industry, and I'd be intrigued to sort of get some information here. So the question is, are your customers or clients satisfied by the current claims experience? I'll give everyone a few seconds to vote on this one. It should have popped up on your screen, hopefully. Interesting results so far. It's quite mixed. So the options are, yes, we have mostly happy customers. Yes, but some really distinct improvements have been made. No, optimization should be made. and no major improvements are needed. We're seeing a really even split, actually. I'll give everyone about 3 more seconds to vote, and then I'll close the poll. Yes, that's really interesting results there. So we've got 32% of people saying they have mostly happy customers with the claims process. Another 30% have mostly happy customers, seeing really real improvements. But we have 27% saying, no, there are some improvements that need to be made. And another 11% who say really major improvements need to be made. I mean, does it? I'll turn this to you guys. Does this surprise you? I mean, Jeff, does this chime with what you're seeing from your customers? Do you think, on the whole, people's experiences are improving with claims, or do you think there's still quite a lot of work to do?
You know, it's funny. As you were breaking down that percentage, I almost think that you could do that within a company. That you have certain aspects of your claims that people maybe are very happy with, certain aspects that they're pretty happy with and could use some improvements, and then areas where we need to dig in here. So if I were able to choose, I would probably mark them all as applicable. And I think that everybody looking at their company would probably look at a similar thing and say, got some areas that are good, and we've got some areas where we really need to dig in and improve. So that doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, I think you're right in that this is not an on switch where someone presses a button, claims are automated, and everything is fine. It's about, as you say, finding that balance, really being able to introspect within a company and saying, what are we getting right? What is needing more improvement? I mean, I'll stay with you for a second while we sort of address the next topic area, which is just on the screen now. This next point is on which trends in tech are allowing powerful automated decision-making possibilities. I mean, Jeff, what have you found have been the big trends that you've seen, the ones that you think could be really promising in this space?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there are a lot of trends in computer visioning that folks are trying to leverage. One of the things that we look at and that we're leveraging is natural language processing. So if you think about your biggest supply of unstructured data within a claims department, it is all of the voice data that we have today. What better source of data to learn from and to drive decision making? And we also have this persistent problem within claims departments of customers telling us, I only want to tell my story one time. And yet we make them repeat it and repeat it and repeat it over and over and over again. How do we capture that voice? How do we contextualize it, use it to make decisions, and then also use it to drive digital? So what I mean by that is understand when customers are calling you, understand why customers are calling you, and then use that to, kind of like a contextual landscape of your calls, and then use that to say, this is the reason this customer is calling us. We don't necessarily need to make that process digital today. We need to understand that reason and serve that need for that customer, because most of those phone calls are a failure. They're because somebody's calling in because they're not getting what they need. So let's figure out what those failures are in our system, and let's put that forward from a digital standpoint. Another thing that we're looking at is crowdsourcing. So how do you use crowdsourcing platforms to be able to effectively do things within your process? So we have a crowdsourcing, kind of spinoff, and one of our first use cases is around auto estimating, and we're looking at other use cases to be able to use the power of a crowd to be able to drive efficiencies within the organization.
Oh, yeah. Some really brilliant sort of new technologies there, which I guess 5 years ago would have just been completely, in many cases, unseen in the insurance industry. So it's always, obviously brilliant to hear when these really innovative ideas are coming in. I particularly enjoy your point about the customer psychology there. This idea that actually, the phone shouldn't be the default. It should be this actually fail safe that people only go to at a point of last resort. I think, it's definitely something that people should keep in mind. I guess I'll turn this to Luiza now. What's your take on this point, and in particular as a solutions provider for some pretty major tech firms? What are the main inefficiencies that you tend to see that you think, actually, yeah, this is where we need to fill gaps in the claims process?
I would probably think that the biggest opportunity and where we're utilizing our technology. So at Cover Genius, we have our own claims platform and our own claim service called Xclaim. So Xclaim is this beautiful and sophisticated technology that is completely integrated with our own ecosystem to distribute policies, and also connected to our partners and to so many other services providers available out there. At Xclaim, what we do is that we use we apply AI, and we have more specifically with NLP and OCR for fraud prevention. And I think that's like where we can see really clear and beautiful applications of the technology and trends in which that can minimize fraud. So what we've done is like really cool. I have like a really easy example that for us just to talk about it. We use NPL to identify patterns and go above and beyond of the syntax of a claim description. So when customers are making claim and describing the claims, describing the incidents, we rely on the semantics. So we look at the description of the claim. Okay, the meaning of this description is very similar to another customer from another language with another description. So it's not about the syntax, it's the semantics. And what we do is like Xclaim actually predicts and returns a risk score associated with the claim. So what we've done is like every single claim that comes into the system has got a potential fraud risk, it's got a risk score associated, and then we create smart routes on who should be reviewing the claim, what are the right tools, what are the right investigation, and then that gets assigned to a dedicated person that's going to be expert. So every single claim that comes in goes through in Xclaim. We have this fraud service that utilizes NPL, but also OCR to extract data and image and information from evidence supporting documents, and also utilize and leverage for the fraud recommendation. So this is how risky your claim is. So let's look at it. Let's not bother having 1,000 people looking at it. This is the right people, the right department that should be looking at this claim. So this is how we've created really smart routes and created a really efficient system so that the claims have this holistic view and minimizes touch points, go back and forth, and it's just like one stop shop all.
So I mean, it's such an interesting anecdote in terms of fraud. And I guess has this changed the way that you think about fraud when it comes to claims? Is that an element which can be more easily siloed off and sort of thought about as less of something that needs to be factored in as a risk?
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Yeah, and it's still actually, well, at the moment the highest rated Q&A question is on fraud. So I may have to not double this up and just you can take this as your great fraud answer, because that's such a fantastic point. I'll turn now to Ernie. Obviously, you're dealing with a vertical which obviously in the US, which is obviously such a big market for both automotives and automotive insurance, must obviously see quite a lot of quite traditional practices. What are the big inefficiencies that you see and are trying to tackle?
Well, to hit on this question, I look at it this way. There's a lot of new technologies out there, and it's easy to fall for the hype, and a lot of these things are sort of their infancy stages. I look at it this way, from our perspective for our business, we look at what technologies can we use today that are going to provide a return on that investment. Where are we going to get real actionable results? For us in our business, our job is really to be hyper focused on condensing that cycle time down from when we get an assignment from an insurance carrier till we can get that back so that adjuster can resolve that claim and get it done. So when we kind of look at the automation process, what we're using, we're really focused more on how can we get that right dispatch to the right resource, because we put a lot of human effort in to really qualify the vendor networks and the solutions that we use to be able to match that claim to the right claim. Because if you have maybe it's a specialty type claim and you have one type of vendor that can't handle it, you got to make sure you're matching up the right resources. So we spend a lot of time on the front end doing that, and we're able to build in our technology that can route those claims to the right resource through the automation. We do a lot through our quality assurance, where we're scanning the files to make sure they meet requirements through the technology. The exciting part of computer vision is exciting because you're going to be able to utilize that to do more quality assurance, to sort of pre-qualify the claim and also do the auditing portion of that. So for us, we're looking at where we can automate behind the scenes to give the customer a better product, better quality. So that's really kind of where we see that. And like I said, there's a lot of the tendency to say there's a lot of technologies that sound good and they're in that infancy stage. But I think for carriers out there, my recommendation is, how can you really have some decision making and some better automation? Focus on an area in your company where you can get some quick wins, and that's what we do in our business. Where's the wins going to happen as things evolve? And I think that's really important. And by doing it, you still have to put that human touch in to build that, and then you find the right way to use that automation.
Have you found it's been culturally often quite difficult to move change in this direction?
Well, a lot of bigger companies, do they have the resources where they're putting a lot of heavy investment into that technology, that straight through processing? There's a lot of businesses out there, a lot of companies out there that simply just need to process that claim on a daily basis. And there's a huge amount of that going on. And I find companies like ourselves here, we're able to bring that technology to them and help that efficiency, because believe it or not, there's still a lot of people out there that are emailing assignments over. That's all they use: email, they phone, they send fax sheets. And there's still a lot of opportunity in this industry. There's tons of opportunity to really optimize efficiency at the carrier level. But I think one thing we have to realize, and it's funny, I was just thinking about this. I was watching a Twilight Zone episode, believe it or not. It's 1964. Okay, and it was about a factory where this one Mr. Whipple's brain factory, I believe it was called, where the CEO and the leadership team was trying to figure out a way to let's replace everybody we can, all the factory workers, thousands of jobs. They replaced so many people that at the end, the guy, his own job was replaced. And so at the end, what are we trying to do? Are we trying to replace ourselves and eliminate ourselves out of a job? So that's where it comes to the point where you have to be balanced on this, and where are you going to get the right return on your investment that makes sense to help your employees, to help those adjusters be more efficient, but not eliminate the process. So that was the one thing I wanted to hit on, because we have to really kind of look at where are we optimizing, where are we automating, where it makes sense not to eliminate things, but to make things better for the process.
That is by far one of my favorite pop culture references we've had in one of these webinars, and I think we should have more. But yeah, it's so true, and it's interesting how often discussions like this ultimately become quite philosophical and about this real idea of how much do we let the robots replace us? It's actually pretty central to our next point. I will just introduce one more poll before we move on to that final section. So I'm going to start that on your screens now. So the question here is your firm implementing modern claims automation processes? It's another strong yes, soft yes, soft no, strong no one. So obviously, so if it's a strong yes, that's, we're not only implementing them, but there's AI, machine learning, NLP as well. Yes, mundane processes are being routinely automated. No, but there's momentum in this direction, and no, and we're not seeing much scope for this in the short to medium term. I'm going to give everyone once again a few more seconds to vote, and then I'm going to close now. Cool. So, obviously, really interesting results here once again. So we've got slightly more actually optimistic than before. This is we have in total 32%. Saying, we're using really quite advanced processes here. Another 37 saying, we're starting to really take those mundane processes, those ones we don't need human decision making for, and we're automating them. And we have 20% saying no, but there's improvement, and 12% saying no, and we're not seeing much scope of improvement coming very soon. So quite a mixed set of results. I guess Luiza, you'll have quite a good market knowledge of this as someone who works across this platform. Do these results surprise you?
I don't think so. I think it's quite a natural transition in the maturity of the industry where we are right now. What we're seeing is that the fastest step for companies to head into automations and smart services is around embedding, putting that at the core of your everyday decision making. So at Cover Genius, that whole idea of continuous improvement, of identifying, discussing with the teams, and this needs to be at the core of your everyday business, right? So it's not only your engineers, it's not only your technology, it's your whole claims team, is everyone being empowered to identify all those tasks and things that you can make it better, right? So I think I have like a really interesting example as well, again, Xclaim, and how we've progressed that into we develop a really nice service that creates so many efficiencies for the claims team. So we all know that in the past, payment of claims, and when you're thinking about global services, not only in the US, but in Europe, Asia, Pacific, Africa, South America, everywhere else, it can be really challenging to issue and to be able to issue payments and claim payments across the globe. So what we've done, Xclaims has this really beautiful service that issue instant payments. So as soon as the claims are approved, customers going to be able to select their preferred currency, their preferred payment method, and get a payment right away. So this has been a big differentiator, and we've been doing this for the last 4 years. So it's not something that's been implemented right now. And what we've seen is that this has driven not only so much satisfaction, so great feedback, customers like, oh my God, I cannot believe my money is in my pocket, but actually removed the whole processing from the claims team. So we used to have a massive team behind the scenes just to issuing and creating manual payments, and this is like with Xclaim and the technology, it's like this is absolutely gone. And what it means is that we allocating in the claims team, and everyone that's doing and just doing the mundane task has been reallocated into more meaningful tasks. And this is the progression, right? So it's about embedding and putting the center of your company, the culture, looking for innovation everywhere in every single thing that you do. So you drive a continuous improvement approach. So change is not a bad thing. It's something that you need to empower and enable in your culture. So everyone is accepted and ready to change, to make it better, and feeling that in a safe environment. Everyone's got a voice to deliver great service and to head to the same direction as a whole company.
Yeah, it's interesting actually, yeah, the way that when people are not expecting to get a great instant payment experience, it can be really like weirdly joyful because people's expectations are often pitched quite low. And I guess, yeah, I mean, there are these like two really interesting intertangled points emerging, and one of them is about the psychology of being a customer, and the other one is this really improved experience of working alongside these technologies as an insurer, which I think leads us quite nicely onto our final slide, which is about which professionals benefit most from automation. I mean, I think on the back of the great Twilight Zone anecdote, I'll return to Ernie on this one. I mean, who would you immediately say is the in terms of the people who are working like well alongside the robots and are benefiting quite a lot? Who do you think are the professionals who benefit most?
Having been an adjuster, having been in the business for 25 years and looking back, from the 90s to where we are today, I think the professionals that benefit are the adjusters. A lot of times you can see the consumers or the customers benefit, but look at the adjusters. This is inherently was a very paper-centric process. I remember having 200, 300 manila folder files sitting on a cubicle behind me. That was the ancient days. Those are the days that you were doing so many paper processes. But there also are so many tasks that adjusters have to do, and still probably have to do, that are mundane tasks that can be automated. Little tasks that can help them eliminate those tasks, and they can focus on where the complex claims are. If you can eliminate the touch points that take away from their day and give them more time back, and also assist in decision making, that's the key. If you can help that adjuster make better decisions, they're going to do their job much, much better. And I think a lot of times the industry has changed. At the time when I was there, we really had to learn every aspect of it. And a lot of carriers are more siloed these days. So there is a kind of a brain drain in the industry where a lot of experienced people have left. But the key is, how can you help make those adjusters today much more powerful by using technology to give them information where they can make those decisions better? So where the automation and where the technology can assist adjusters, I think it is fantastic because it'll make them better at what they do, and they can give that more personalized approach to customers when they need to talk to somebody. And that's where I think there's a lot of opportunity right there. And you balance that, and if you give that adjuster that opportunity to be better at that, then they're only going to give that better service to that customer at the end.
Yeah, it is interesting. Like that whole, like there is almost this sense of our thinking is very skewed as we have this binary where it's like, okay, either there's automation or there's people. And I think I'm definitely getting the impression from all three of you guys that it is a real, it's a really supplementary, really, there's a real duality to it. I mean, Jeff, I'll turn this question to you. Like, which professionals do you think can benefit the most from greater levels of automation?
Yeah, I also think it's adjusters. I kind of a broad category of decision makers on claims, and I kind of think about the automation a bit differently than what I'm hearing. We're talking a lot about automating of process, and I think folks that work with me hear this all the time, that I don't really care about the process. I care about the outcome, and a claim is really a collection of four things. It's a determination of coverage. It's a determination of liability, or whether you care about liability. It's a determination of the damages, so how much are you going to pay? And then it's making a payment. Everything else are your tactics around those things. And a lot of times we get so attached to our tactics and our processes that we begin to think that those are the things. And those really aren't the what's of the claim. So you have to do those four things in order to resolve a claim. And so our goal from a claim standpoint should be driving towards resolution, not automation of our processes. The processes are simply a how. I like to know what the process is because I want to know what I'm changing. But what we should be leaving behind from an adjusting standpoint is, where are those places that you need adjusters' eyes on it? Ernie talked about it earlier, of like those off ramps where a customer may want an adjuster. They may want somebody to talk to. You don't necessarily need it for your process, but they want that customer. So how do you bring that professional in, let them know everything that's happened on that claim at a glance? So we have a goal of anyone can get oriented on a claim in 10 seconds or less. So we're working towards that. Right now, it's a 10-minute scavenger hunt in most claim systems to really figure out what's happening on a claim and to be able to help a customer. So how do you break that down so that you get at what is really important so that you can help this customer? So I think all of that automation is about putting the right information at somebody's fingertips to help a customer, so that, and also to not have somebody redoing work. We have so much rework in a claim where you go in and somebody's having to redo work on coverage because it's not completely obvious that the coverage is done. They're redoing work on liability. They're re-asking questions because it's not completely obvious that it's done. Same for damages and on through. So how do you make it so that whether it's a customer or an adjuster, they know exactly what needs to be done. They know exactly what needs to be done next, so they can pick that ball up for the customer and take care of them.
Such an interesting view of the whole thing. Actually, it's about, and it also comes back to this idea of the customer psychology of it, the feeling of customer fulfillment. So I think it's such an interesting idea about taking priority over outcomes rather than processes. I mean, Luiza, as someone whose platforms are often all about these processes, do you agree with this? What's your take on that way of looking at things?
Yeah, I think that's quite an interesting topic. So I think that when you think at CoverGenius and Xclaim and the technology, maybe going back a little bit to the original question, our company, it's digital by nature, right? So being digital is in our DNA. So we never had an experience in which we never had paper claims. Everything is fully digital. Our systems are fully connected with a distribution platform. Xclaim is connected to Xcover, to our partners. So when we're thinking about the processing of the claim, it's so instant and everything happens in one go. So you see them at over 95% of the claims are resolved in one go. So it's in one touch because the whole system is automated and is integrated, more importantly. And I think that the biggest professionals, and I can see that the biggest impact is on the claims team. So our claims team, it's actually they're utilized for the full capacity. So let's use humans for what they're great for the critical thinking, for the decision making, and how we can enable and empower our teams that can rely on technology to make their jobs easier. So I'm really proud to say that the churn rate for a claims team is tiny. It's really, really low. So an average of assessors been with us for 4 or 5 years. And we've seen that how it's beautiful when you have your humans and technology working together and delivering those great experiences. And I agree, it's about the outcome. So when you have, like, for us, we have really quick turnaround, quick claims. Majority of claims are settled. So 95% of the claims are settled within 3 days. So that outcome is right in front of you, and it's just so much easier to deal with the customers on that digital environment, which is so native for us as well.
Yeah, I think it's sort of, I mean, it's that sort of quintessential answer, which actually, yeah, the claims team benefit most from automated claims. I think it is very true, and I really like that line you draw there between where those really fine-tuned human decisions can be balanced with automating more standardized decisions. I mean, before we turn into the Q&A, I'll just, like, Luiza, I'll ask you one more question just on that particular topic, and it sort of echoes something which Ernie mentioned earlier. But where would you draw the line in terms of how far do you think the automation can go, and where do actually we really need humans, and we'll always need humans?
I think that, so if you think about, for example, the fraud, and when we think about fraud, right? So this is like a perfect example for, and you have humans and technology working together. So Xclaim, through our AI technology that we implemented in Xclaim, we can have a really, really clear determination of recommendation prediction of how much a claim, how potential of fraud there is in the claim, right? The biggest question at that point is not so much of, okay, is this fraud? It's not, it's probably fraud. And then the second component is, how do you decline the claim, and how do you potentially prevent that from happening, and how to engage that with the customer? So this is where you might leverage humans, and this is where you might rely on the claims team for step in, make a decision, and manage that situation, that really complex case at its finest of the capacity of the communication, engaging with the customers or the different parties, and make sure that it's this whole end. It's not about identifying how risky a claim is, who should be looking at it. It's about how you handle and how do you close that. And also identifying which are those risky claims, which are those claims that outliners, which are the claims that, okay, maybe that's where we need to stop. And what you do in, like, that's what we do basically in Xclaim.
Oh, sorry, Luiza, I think we've lost you a little bit there. Oh, sorry. I think
those claims that look from a case.
Sorry, I think the last sentence or so was cut off there by connection issues.
Sorry, guys.
No, don't worry.
I don't know. My connection is just tricking me a little bit.
So I think it was only for the last 10 seconds or so. So it's nothing too drastic.
That's fine. So I think I was just probably covering around how we can identify and identify the outliners within the claims, and how you use technology, how you use machine learning. Xclaim can identify those claims. So you have an intervention, a human intervention, you have human-assisted systems where can step in and intervene and make a good decision for the claims, right? So it's closing, settling, denying if applicable. But yeah, it's just managing that until the end of it, until the life cycle of the claim.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much. And it's this fraud anecdote is, I think, as I mentioned earlier, is also something which is brought up by our top-rated Q&A question, which is from Elgos, which is what impact does automation have on resolving fraudulent claims? I feel like, given that it's had so many upvotes, I want to address it again, because I think it's worth thinking about. And I guess, Ernie, I'd be interested to turn this question to you, because obviously I think when people think about fraud and insurance, one of the really the sort of prevailing cultural images is of fraudulent automotive claims. How have you found that modern techniques of automation and introducing machine learning and NLP, for instance, have been useful in combating fraud?
Well, it's a great question, and that's one of the things I'm excited about. We actually have a collaboration coming out next week. We're going to be announcing where we're integrating some more fraud prevention tools into our platform. So I'm really excited to kind of talk on that topic. And you have to realize that with photo estimating happening a lot these days, the risk for fraud is enormous. I mean, you can build in solutions to try to capture it, but without somebody inspecting it, it does increase the opportunity for fraud. So there are solutions that can be built in to verify photographs, look for alterations, anything happening to it. It's another layer of defense against that. And you can utilize technology like that to catch outliers, to catch anomalies, and tag potential things that may seem like fraud. So you can actually funnel them into somebody to look at to give it a second pair of eyes. So utilizing technology is really important these days if you're really going to a heavy photo estimating type operation at a carrier. And there are tools like this that can help catch the outliers. Now, you can't just say this is fraud, that's not. There's never going to be it's never going to be perfect. But what you can do is catch the outliers and bring red flags to people so they can take a look at it. So I think there's a lot of opportunity in that area to help as people move to photo estimating to catch some of those outliers. So I think that's where there's some great opportunity.
Yeah, obviously, I think it's. I mean, as you said, like where there is that risk of of running into difficulties, there is actually so much opportunity as well. I'll take another question. Actually, we'll take three in total. This is the second one before we close off this section. This is a great question. What opportunities does blockchain present for claims automation? I know Jeff. I know there's something I think you've written about before and thought quite a lot about. But what would you say are the opportunities of blockchain?
I mean, I think there's opportunities across, kind of across industries when it comes to claims. So you start to think about something like the total loss process, and you start to think about how cumbersome our workflows are with lien holders. It's just brutal, and there's been a reluctance between a lot of large carriers and other financial institutions about getting on a block together and being able to transact things very quickly for a customer. So you imagine having a customer where they have a total loss, you're getting instant payoff amounts, you're skipping the whole letter of guarantee process. You are being able to do your paperwork seamlessly with your customer electronically, and then you're being able to pass payments using the block. So that, I think, is something that would cure a lot of ills within the industry. I think there are, you think about things like first notice of loss between carriers. If we were to form a block and be able to pass information between carriers and, click a button to set up a claim with another carrier, knowing what information you have to pass to them. We've standardized that type of information. I think there's huge opportunities, but the first big hurdle of that is that trust between the institutions to get on a block together and do that work.
Yeah, I think that is a really good example, I guess, of where this sort of cultural reluctance to use new technologies can also be matched by a really real risk of taking on quite a lot of financial risk at that point. So thanks for that. One final Q&A question before we move on to our conclusion section. This is from Louise. How long do you think it will take for incumbent insurers to catch up with modern claims automation processes? I guess I'll give this one to Luiza, because obviously you're in a firm which was very early to the game on this question. But do you think this is something where we're going to see a lot of speed and incumbents taking this up pretty quickly?
Awesome. That's a really interesting question. I think that we're seeing like the current incumbents companies, they're putting efforts, they're like start getting into the game and probably trying to catch up. The reality, there's like a big gap within the digital transformation, and that's why we're seeing around the block. I think when we think about Cover Genius and what we've done, it's just again going back to the culture of innovation and putting that at the core of every single function of your culture, which is continuous change. We make it better, and we create magic. Basically, these are the two main core values for us in the company. And I think that this is to be the structural change that's top down, but more importantly, bottom up. So everyone in your teams, in your organization are empowered to think about how we can make great experience, how we can innovate, how we can, why I'm doing the SaaS, and making recommendations and thinking about that from a holistic point of view. So I think that for us, there's like, probably in this digital space and just thinking digital, and more important, actually, another comment that I want to say is like not being afraid to disrupt the industry and to stand up, even if they could be challenging for customers and they might not be exactly what they're expecting. So what we're seeing is that we are getting a big wave of millennials and a big wave of users and consumers that are fully digital. They do not want to talk to them over the phone. They don't want to need to do anything paper. They don't have printers at home. They don't know how to do this works for them. So it's about standing up and making the call of going fully digital, establishing a services digital, and just creating everything within that environment. And I think that's going to be a big turning point for companies for when they actually make the call. This is like when we need to stop and just transform completely in going into this digital world.
Yeah, I think, and also, yeah, we're wrapping up there pretty much those two threads again, and it all comes back to that customer psychology and that insurer psychology. So that's all the time we have for Q&A questions. Just before we wrap up completely, I think let's go finally to our key takeaways. So I'll be really intrigued to hear from each of you. What would you say is the sort of central conclusion that you've taken from this discussion? I mean, Luiza, what would you say is yours?
I think it's been really interesting for us just to be here together and have so many different aspects. It's also reassuring in the sense of thinking about our mission and what we're doing and how we're disrupting the industry. It's just really cool and interesting to see common problems, challenges, and that we're facing, and how a common solutions that we can also utilize it, seeing trends in AI, NLP, OCR, and how we can apply those different applications into our systems, into our technology, and truly making something new for the industry and innovating at every single step of a claims in our organizations.
Oh, thank you. I think that's such a great point. And obviously, yeah, this is something that we always find so brilliant about these webinars, that not only can we bring people from all parts of the world, but also from all parts of the industry. Yeah, I mean, Jeff, what would you say is your key takeaway?
I think, I'm always, one, it's always nice to get together and chat with smart folks and hear their perspectives on things. I think what I always take away from these types of conversations is that, none of us are alone in how we're, in these problems that we have to solve. But it's always interesting to hear the perspectives of, especially I hear Luiza coming from a perspective of a company that was really born digital. So, it's a different mindset when you don't have all of this, I will say it nicely, organizational baggage that you have to worry about. We've got, from an Allstate standpoint, you've got 80 years of success behind you. And a lot of those things that made you really, really successful might not be the things that make you successful in the future. And so, I always like listening to folks that don't have to necessarily deal with that, that challenge about how they're thinking about it. Because I'm always challenging people of, what if we didn't have these processes in place? What if we didn't have these system limitations? What would you do then? So it's always interesting to hear folks that they don't have to worry about that, so that they can just go after it.
Yeah, so it's such a good point when there is 80 years between two companies. I mean, what is the formative trauma for one could be the 2008 crash. The formative trauma for another could be the 1929 crash. So there is obviously a lot of really interesting difference in those perspectives. Finally, Ernie, what would you say is your key takeaway?
Well, my takeaway would be is kind of a combination of what we were saying. Jeff's of the Allstate, they got all the years of experience. They're handling so many different parts of digitization now, to being, obviously helping customers. To Luiza's company's all tech driven. And I look at us as kind of in that middle part. And I guess my takeaway is really kind of the thought that we all just have to find that balance. Where is the outcomes, the results going to be better, and how do we all implement automation where it makes sense, provides a great experience to the customers, but maintains the human touch. And I think it's that balance that we see moving forward is going to be interesting to see how it goes. And that's how all the companies out there have to adapt to the changing world. How do you find balance in a world where technology is progressing so fast? And how can you improve processes and then still maintain that balance of the human touch? And it's really going to be interesting to see.
And obviously, I think 3 points that really wrap up the discussion today. I think we're very much brushing against the hour now, and what that means is we're brushing up against Thursday for Luiza. So I promise I won't keep you too much longer. But I'll say to the three of you, thank you so much for joining us. For the two of you in the States, have a great rest of the day. For Luiza, you're free from the day now. So thank you all so much for coming. And and to all of our audience members, thanks for coming along for the ride. And we hope to see you at future webinars. So I've got on screen here, you can see our next webinar at the same time next Wednesday, and that is on why insurance products need to be flexible. So we're really looking forward to hopefully seeing quite a few of the same people there. And thank you all so much, and have a great rest of the day.
All right.
Cool.
Great being on.
All right. Bye.
Bye.